about the first section of the divine principle. I guess I should say a few words just basically about the divine principle in general. Most of us, if we look out at this world, it's not very satisfactory. Okay, so basically we're not satisfied with this world. This world has a lot of problems, and we really need to do something to improve it. Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Can everybody see me? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, okay. Maybe we should turn off more lights then. Okay, anyway. Okay, so the world's not the way, if any of us had, decided, okay, I'm going to design the way the world should be, it probably wouldn't be like the world as it is right now. We can take 100 examples. There's crime, violence, huge disparity between the haves and the have-nots. War, poverty, all kinds of terrible things going on in this world. Disease, famine. Probably none of us would really have liked it to be like that. And we're here to say that actually it wasn't supposed to be like that. I think, most Christians pretty much agree with that, and most religious people in general feel that, there's a gap, a disparity between where we are and where we want to be. Okay? And so the purpose of the divine principle is to explain about that. So this morning I'm going to talk about, first of all, where we should have been. These ideas I'm talking about are part of a series of talks or topics which were basically given to us by Reverend Sam-Young Moon, the founder of our movement. And, it's not as though we don't already know a lot of very important truths about God. Many people have been sent by God to explain to us about the truth. Prophets, religious people, saints. Many people have come to explain to us, and yet we still have the problems we have today. Over time, as we grow and develop and mature, we're able to come to a deeper understanding. And the teachings of Reverend Moon, what I'm going to be presenting today along with Pastor Frank, are an understanding of the truth that fits where we are today in our society. 3,000 years ago, Abraham, Moses were teaching us to sacrifice animals. But we have ways to make relationships with God nowadays that don't involve sacrificing animals. We're deeper, and we have a much clearer understanding of God because of the foundation of many people's sacrifice and love and teaching over the years. Jesus came and preached a message of love. Love your neighbor. Give. And this was a much higher ideal. Nowadays, not just to give by loving, but Reverend Moon's message nowadays is to build, to create the world that we're meant to live in. And not just for any one religion, but it's a message for all of us. It's a message that brings together the great contributions of many religious people. Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, Buddha, all of these people sent by God giving us wonderful truth. Now is the time to really bring these together with God's people, and build a world in which all of us can understand and live as God's sons and daughters the way we're supposed to be. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I really hope it works. Yes! Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, so what I want to start out today, just talk a little bit about God. Okay? Since we all, I think, everybody here, any people, well, maybe I shouldn't ask. There may be some people that don't believe in God, but I think most people in America today, and probably I think just about everybody in this room, believes in the existence of God. Believes that we're not here by accident. But if God exists, if God creates us, then it's important for us to understand why. And in order to understand why God created us, it's probably a good idea to understand God. Who is God? And what is His character? What is His nature? And then from that we can begin to understand who we are, why we're here, what's going on. So let's talk about God, and let's talk about His creature and His nature and everything. It says in the Bible, Romans 1:20, ever since the creation of the world, His invisible nature, namely His eternal power and deity, has been clearly perceived in the things that have been made. So they are without excuse. Anybody recognize this? One of our very good friends in our church here, one of our brothers here in our church is an artist. And if we look at this beautiful picture here, it tells us probably a little bit about the characteristics of the artist that made this picture. Has anybody here ever seen a Picasso?
Picasso painting?
Picasso painting,
Yeah.
right. Do you get a comfortable feeling about Picasso by looking at one of his paintings? Right. You know, I think if you look at Picasso with his, you know, the eyes both on one side, and angular, cubical kinds of things, you kind of get the feeling maybe Picasso is not exactly a normal guy. And let's say if you were getting ready to rent out an apartment that you owned, and he offered one of his paintings as his resume, I think you might think twice, you know, like, for example, having him as a roommate, for instance. But on the other hand, I look at this beautiful thing here, and I think this person must have a very calm nature and an appreciation of God's creation. That if this were somebody's resume, I think, well, I'd probably want to look into this person a little bit more. The point here is that we can understand a lot about somebody's character by looking at the things they have created. Now, God is invisible. None of us can see God. At least, you know, not like we see normal things in this world. So how are we to understand God? Well, let's look around the world. Let's see the things that God's created, and then we can begin to get an understanding of what God's character is and how he lives. So let's look at that now. You know, if we look at the creation, we can see that there's an incredible, vast, amazing myriad of things on the earth. I'm just looking out the window here. I see rocks, leaves, trees, empty Dixie cup. You know, actually, no, there's not one out there. But we can see there are many things in the universe. And yet, if we look more carefully, we begin to see certain classifications, certain ordering of things. That, in fact, even though there's a credible variety, yet it doesn't really seem to be random. If we look at some of the classifications of things, one thing we can see right away is that things tend to be either plus or minus, masculine or feminine. There tends to be a duality of things. If you look at ancient Chinese study, they have what they call the yin and yang. You've ever heard of that? Yeah. It's kind of a way of classifying all things into sort of strong, aggressive, powerful, sort of masculine characteristics, soft, warm, nurturing, sweet, beautiful, feminine characteristics. And there's a deep wisdom to this, and if we look into the world as a whole, we tend to see that everywhere. If we look at, just start at the very bottom, we look at particles, okay? You know, basically there's two characteristics that particles have. They're either positive or negative, or they're both, okay? And even if they're both, it's just because a positive and a negative come together. Same thing we can see atoms too. Atoms have valences. Atoms form into molecules because atoms, some of them have a positive valence, some of them have a negative valence, and this characteristic of valences brings them together into incredible, almost impossible to break apart unity to become something completely different. So we have positive and negative valences. These things that atoms come into are molecules. They form molecules, and the molecules themselves have positive and negative charges. So we can see the very basic level of the universe. Things have positive and negative characteristics. If you isolate one thing out of creation, you can pretty much say this thing has a positive or negative characteristic at this level. Well then, okay, we go to this lower level here. How about living things? What about living things? Well, I used to have a cherry tree in my backyard, and I loved to eat delicious cherries. However, there was a problem with my cherry tree. My cherry tree was, I think it was a male cherry tree. It wasn't the kind of cherry tree that produces cherries by itself.